How did I become a guide for Yellowstone National Park, and what advice do I have for somebody trying to get into the wildlife education realm? Hi, my name is Natalie, and I've been working in the wildlife education realm for a while, but I'm still quite young, and so I figured this would be a good time for me to give my personal experience getting into this field and the advice that I have gained over the past couple of years being new into this field. Let's start off with college. I went to college at Berry College in Rome, Georgia. And when I went there, I went to get a degree in animal science and I minored in chemistry. And the reason I was doing this is I wanted to be a veterinarian, specifically an exotic animal veterinarian. I quickly learned I didn't think that this was quite the right path for me, but I didn't really know what else to do, so I stuck with that degree. And then while I was in college, I started volunteering. I volunteered at a local nature center, and at that local nature center, I would help with animal care tasks. They were like a rescue place, and so they had like snakes, alligators, turtles, salamanders, and a raccoon from the area. And then they would do educational programs with them. So I'd also assist with these educational programs. So I got some hands on experience working with animals. And then in the summers, I worked for a wildlife rehabilitation nature center. And so I did mainly rehab to release, but I did help a little bit with normal animal care tasks as well as some of their programming when needed. My final year of college, I did also volunteer at the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, where I helped design a trail system, and I designed signs on that trail system, educational signs, and some educational material for that trail system. In addition to my volunteer work, I also got employed by a professor when I was in college to do research, and we did research on white-tailed deer, and we were specifically researching reproductive system. So we were researching how to cryopreserve epididymal spermatozoa from white-tailed deer, as well as use that to do pretty much IVF with cryopreserved oocytes from hunter-killed deer. So that gave me some research experience. And then I had a lot of different experiences from my volunteer work as well. So, because of that, I feel like it set me up really well to be able to do a variety of different things. When I got ready to graduate, my husband had accepted a job in Bozeman, Montana. So, we were moving there. And when we moved to Bozeman, I started looking for work. And at first, I actually accepted a job at a vet clinic because I was like, I just need a job. I don't really want to work at a vet clinic, but this will hold me over. And I hated it so much. The lady I worked for was just not nice. There was no training involved. I hadn't worked at a vet clinic before. And I was just trying to work as the receptionist. And she was just not very patient, was not a very fun lady to work for. And so after only like a week of working there, I knew like I need to find something else soon. So I was spending a bunch of time just searching for jobs. And I had applied for a bunch of jobs before we even moved out here, and I had pretty much just gotten no's from anything that was somewhat in the realm or just didn't hear back from anything. So I wasn't feeling too hopeful. And I had applied to be a guide in Yellowstone before we had moved out here with the company. And they pretty much told me, like, hey, you don't have enough experience in the Rocky Mountains. But if like you get some more experience out here, maybe we'd consider you in the future. Was very nice, but it was disappointing to hear nonetheless. But when I was scrolling, I saw another position for guiding in Yellowstone, and at this point, it was like mid May. And so I know that the season was like about to start. So I was like, well, maybe these people are a little bit more desperate for a guide. And I have a lot of wildlife education experience. I'm pretty good at talking to people, and like I learn really quickly. And I applied, and they literally offered me the job the next day. So I quit the job at the vet clinic and started my training for that job. And the training was pretty simple. Oh, the train's coming by. The training for that job was pretty simple. It was pretty much I shadowed another guide for a few days and did a bunch of studying on my own. And then I started guiding, and I guided for 3 summers, and I really loved it. But I thought that I wanted to do something that wasn't seasonal, and I was starting to get a little bit burned out because it is really long hours sometimes. And so after my third summer, I ended up accepting a job in Alaska, which is a place I've always wanted to go, always wanted to visit, same with my husband. So I accepted a job as an education specialist at a nature center, or a wildlife sanctuary specifically. And I really loved that job. It was a very fun job. I did a lot of different things. I would do beluga monitoring, I would do wildlife programming, I would help with animal care tasks because they had injured and orphaned wildlife there. I did some curriculum development. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I was very good at it. It was a great job to have. But the location was just kind of hard after a while. I worked there for 2 winters and a summer, so for a year and a half, and it was located in the rainforest an hour from where we were able to find housing that was dog friendly. And it was just starting to wear on us, and we realized that this wasn't something that we wanted to do full time forever. So when everything just lined up perfectly for us to leave and come back to Montana, we decided to. So I came back and I started guiding in Yellowstone again, and I just ended now my fourth summer guiding in Yellowstone, and I remember how much I love it, and it's really great. And I put a little bit more boundaries in place this year, so I wasn't overworking myself, so it worked out really well. So that's my story on how I became a guide in Yellowstone. And from my time in this field, here is the advice that I have for anyone who is looking to get into the realm of wildlife education or become a guide in Yellowstone. My biggest thing is your experience speaks louder than your education. While I do think having a bachelor's degree in some sort of science or communication field, something like that, is still beneficial, or even like in the education field, what specifically you have a degree in doesn't hold as much weight as your experiences do, in my personal experience, because my degree doesn't have a ton to do with what I currently do. When looking for gaining experiences, volunteering and interning are your best options. Try and look for something that is going to give you diverse kinds of skills as well as diverse experiences, and look for a variety of different volunteer work. If you're looking for something that is like within where you're currently living, but you don't see anything that is completely attached to your career specific interests, for example, you don't have a nature center near you that provides wildlife education programs, or you don't have a national park near you where you can volunteer to help lead guided hikes or something like that, you can also find volunteer work through like a science museum. You can help out there. You can volunteer at a zoo. You can volunteer at an aquarium. You can probably even find volunteer work at like your state park or your local city parks might even have programming that they do. And oh, it just got really dark in here. And just finding something where you're getting like a little bit of experience, providing some sort of educational program or taking people outside, doing some sort of like recreational education can be beneficial, even if it's just at an organization that provides that and you're not specifically doing that. Like if you're running the ticket booth at the museum, it could still like help you with connections even. Knowing that you are in a location that doesn't have a whole lot of volunteer intern options can also be something to keep in mind. You might have to travel to another state pretty far distances away to do any kind of related career developments. You might be interning in another state. Look for internships that provide free or reduced housing, though. Those are going to be your best options, and you're going to get a lot of no's when applying for internships in this field. Just apply for as much as possible. If there is somewhere local to you, if you can go in person and talk to them, that makes a big difference as well. And if you're local to the area, they usually really like that kind of stuff. Once you have a little bit of experience volunteering and interning in the field, your next step is probably going to be seasonal work. When I was first getting into this field, I was like, I don't want to work seasonally. I want benefits. I want job security. But most entry level positions are going to be seasonal. And that's okay. Most of the time they're seasonal in the summer, and then I just currently work random jobs in the winter time, which is sometimes hard. So it is something to keep in mind. But you'll find a lot of different kinds of seasonal work. These jobs can also be competitive, just like intern jobs are. So you'll probably have to apply for a lot and maybe even be willing to travel. One thing to keep in mind when doing season work, even if it's not specifically what you wanted to do for the rest of your life, look for seasonal jobs that give you relevant experiences that are applicable across different fields. Doing some sort of like tech work, doing research work, grant writing, GIS work, if you're doing some sort of educational programming, even if it is just like recreational education, not necessarily wildlife education, you're still developing those skills. Any kind of communication and marketing skills are always beneficial as well. There's someone doing yard work now. I apologize if you can hear that leaf blower that is now really loud. Getting certifications are also going to help you become more marketable in this field. Some certifications that I see a lot on applications are getting an NAI certified guide certificate. I have one of those, and it goes a pretty long way. Being wilderness first aid is usually something that a lot of places are going to require. You usually also need things like a driver's license and to be able to pass a background check. That is very annoying. Um, Anything like wild capture or GIS certificates are also pretty common to see on applications. If you're looking at jobs, things that you're interested in, and you're seeing preferred skills or preferred certifications, look into those courses. Most courses cost a lot of money, but sometimes employers will pay for you to get those courses. So that is always something to ask if that is something they will do. Another thing, if you currently have a job that is seasonal or that is an internship or something, but it's not a place that you're planning on working at forever, volunteer at an organization you are hoping to work at. That's going to help you get some connections. They oftentimes like to hire internally at a lot of nonprofit organizations specifically. And so they may know that you were looking for a job with them and approach you about a position before they ever post it. They're more likely to hire somebody they already know than someone they don't know. Networking is one of the biggest things for this field as well. Knowing people in the field goes a really long way, who can give you good references, who can give you good recommendations, who can also like give you a heads up about jobs that they're aware of. So going to different kinds of events in your community where these kinds of people may be, such as litter cleanups, river cleanups, anything like that, bird banding demonstrations, just meeting people, knowing people in the community goes a pretty long way, because if they recognize your name on an application, they are more likely to set it aside and interview you. One thing to just kind of keep in mind is this is a field that is very competitive and doesn't have a whole lot of great pay usually. And so because of that, when a job comes up that is paying a competitive wage and has good benefits, they're usually very, very competitive. So when applying for jobs, you'll probably get lots of no's. Don't let that discourage you. Just keep gaining your experiences, keep doing whatever you're doing, keep being passionate about it, and eventually you'll get that yes that was the right fit for you. If you have any other questions about my career path or any other questions about how to get involved in wildlife education, please leave a comment below. I'd love to help you out. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.